Welcome back. In 2002, a collection of former President Nelson Mandela's favorite African folk tales was published. Now, the stories Madiba grew up with have been brought to life. Local filmmaker Claudia Noble Aref has turned them into an animated TV series. It's already won numerous international awards and will go on tour around the world. Let's get more from the filmmaker who joins us from the Durban International Film Festival. A very good morning to you, Claudia. Thank you so much for your time. So let's talk about the inspiration to bring these books to life, essentially.
Good morning, Morena. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I had been working on a short film that I did for children in about 2012. And then it was so successful that I wanted to do more work with children. And I was surfing the net and I came across the book, Nelson Mandela's Favorite African Folktales, and I immediately purchased the book. And when I read the stories, all the folktales that he had chosen as his favorite folktales, I thought, no, this has to be animated. This has to be seen by all the children, because he said inside the book that it is his wish that all the children of the world would see the stories and that the African voice tellers' stories will never die. And that was my inspiration, was to make that wish of his come true by doing the animation and putting it available for children to watch.
You know, there's so much spoken about how we don't document our history, or we don't document our stories. We don't, put them out there for generations to come, to have access to them, to understand where it is they come from, to understand what, has been about South Africa, that there is just this void missing, especially when you look at it from, a literary point of view and now from a film point of view. So just speak to us about the importance of making sure that, the films are exist, have come to life, and particularly because these are stories that our former head of state enjoyed.
Yes, these were stories that were actually told to him, he says in the book, as a child growing up in the village of Kunu by his mother and by the elders of the village. And that's why it was so important to him to put the book together and compile these stories so they would be a heritage that would be able to be available to the children to watch, to read. But I think that a lot of children these days don't really also have access to reading material, and that it was important for us to be able to put it into a film, because then children really have more access to it. Children are always watching animations. It's something that they do all the time these days, and they could easily access it online on their phones and then learn about the heritage of our country, because the films are all from different countries. We have one from Uganda, the one from KZN, the one from Kenya. And in the story, we made sure that when we were designing the characters, that we had the heretical cultural clothing. So children won't just be entertained, won't just learn a lesson, but they definitely will learn about their own heritage in the mystical past of our country and of Africa. So that was really important to us. And I think one of the things that will be very much seen by the children would be able for them to be learning about the heritage. And the thing about animation, if you think about Mickey Mouse, for example, it's been going for 100 years. So it would be just wonderful if 100 years from now, our children can be watching these African folktales and learning about the heritage of our past.
I mentioned in my intro that it's won, these tales, these stories have won multiple international awards. Just bring us into the reception that from the world of these stories.
We had submitted them on Film Freeway to the different festivals, and really we received such an overwhelming response. One of the awards most notable was the one from the Manchester Lift-Off Film Festival from the United Kingdom, where we won Audience Choice Award. And then we received 15 Best Animation Awards from Italy, from Rome, from United States. It was just actually been overwhelming, the number of countries across the globe that have had the film screen on their festival circuit and have been watched and chosen by their audiences as being their favorite film to be watching. So that we've been very pleased about that.
The languages these films are in, Claudia, obviously because, they depict stories from different countries. Will they only be in English, or will there be different varieties?
They're currently in English, but because it's animation, it will really be easy to dub them into any language. We can actually put them into all 11 official languages for South Africa. And if they are taken, for example, by France or any of those other countries, or Portuguese, it's easy to dub animation. So it could go into any language that is chosen by the country that might then purchase the animation to showcase on their television series.
I think a number of people don't understand the kind of work that goes into producing film, be it, animation or ordinary film, like we get to see coming out of Hollywood. Just speak to us about how difficult it was to put all these stories together, how long it took, and just the kind of effort that went into putting these stories together.
I think the biggest challenge we have as filmmakers is funding. So I, discovered the book 7 years ago, and it has taken me that long to produce it because we needed to find funding. We were fortunate; the Department of Trade and Industry would send us to different festivals across the world. So we went to Annecy, for example, and met up with other producers there. But we weren't able to secure international co-production on the project. But then we were very fortunate that the KZN Film Commission gave us our first bit of funding, and we started our production. It took us 3 years to actually produce the 5 stories that we have completed. And the reason was also because COVID hit us, and we were working with a center of CFAT, they called the Center of Animation, Fine Arts and Design in Durban. And when COVID started, the college was closed, so we had those challenges then. But then we were fortunate again because then we received funding from the Presidential Employment Stimulus Fund, and that helped us over that period to get the project going, and even then receive assistance from Mind Eye Creation, which is a company in Johannesburg that assisted us to complete the animation. So it was a big challenge, but we were fortunate with the government funding that we received and the support from our government, and we were then able to complete the project, and it's been so successful now, so that was great.
Just before we let you go, Claudia, you mentioned that there's 5 stories that have been produced over the last couple of years. Can we expect more?
The book has a total of 30 stories, and if we receive more funding, we can definitely complete the other 24.
Oh, that is beautiful. So, of course, this is essentially us asking anybody out there who does have the kind of bank to just jump on board and help you guys to just bring to life these 30 stories. They are, of course, internationally recognized, internationally loved, and I would imagine South Africans will also love them even more because these are stories that, touch closer to home. These are stories that were loved, and, he grew up with it, Tata Madiba, on these. So we really do hope that there are people out there who do have the kinds of coins that can necessarily bring all 30 of these stories to life. But Claudia, thank you so much for joining us and just sharing, of course, the stories that you guys have been producing. That is local film producer, filmmaker, in fact, Claudia Noble Aref.